Friends, I think it's very dangerous to have a preacher on last because he might go on. My sermons are generally 20 minutes, but no, I'll keep the time. Why I was asked by Elliot to say why I supported Anti-Slavery International. I think there are two reasons, and Nicholas alluded to one. From the time as a teacher, when I interviewed my MP in London, a young Mrs. Margaret Thatcher, on behalf of the new anti-slavery movement, and was threatened by her with legal action. Until now, I've always wanted to campaign for human rights. And as one who picked up on my early study of history in recent years to write about historical anti-slavery, I get a bit impatient with colleagues in this field who simply wallow in their past views and fail to do anything about urgent things today. I wrote a little mentioned in the Reporter about two of my heroes, William Wilberforce's close ally, Zachary Macaulay, the first editor of the Anti-Slavery Reporter in 1825, and a woman called Ellen Craft, a self-liberated slave from Georgia. And I've had the privilege of meeting both descendants of both these people, and that's inspired me to support the campaigns today. So I want to say very briefly three things in these brief minutes, some echoing some of the things we've heard this afternoon. And the first is that often when we rightly celebrate all the heroes of the anti-slavery movement, and we celebrate the work done by this great dedicated work done, we've heard about it, by the staff of anti-slavery, we forget sometimes the courage and the risks, often life-threatening risks, taken by those individuals which anti-slavery supports over the years. And we've heard some examples of projects. And it's been very inspiring to hear the stories of Mokia from Mauritania in the Reporter, herself enslaved until 7 years ago, finding new life. Angel or Achel in Tanzania, after exploitation, receiving the Queen's Award for her work to protect vulnerable children. Or Pooja, the former bonded labourer in the brick kilns, who organises now to empower workers. And there are stacks of these people. Often I think they feel a bit isolated or misunderstood or crushed by powerful forces, but they keep going, they achieve so much. And they stand in a very proud historical tradition. Folk like Joseph Knight in my own land, who refused to obey his master in 1770 and led to the highest court in the land declaring 8 years later, that slavery was inadmissible. Or Sam Sharp, the Baptist leader in Jamaica, who gave his life in 1830 in a rebellion that hastened the end of slavery in the British Empire. It's they and their heirs, I think, who are the real heroes of anti-slavery. And the second thing I want to say, and it underscores again what was expressed in the group I was in, that we mustn't ever think the job is ever done. We have cross-party groups in the Scottish Parliament. Anyone with an interest can join these. And I've been trying to wear a bit of an anti-slavery hat on the one on human trafficking. And it's great that there's been legislation in Scotland, in Northern Ireland, and in Westminster. And we were campaigning for that with petitions at the Commonwealth Games and the Edinburgh Festival. But it's all too easy for governments to rest on their laurels. And it's very, very important, I think, that we should realise the legacy of slavery that continues, and also not to pretend the job has been done. Aidan raised the issue about the threat that Brexit holds. Jakob has highlighted the lack of protection for many already here. And we may need to do more and more work in campaigning, just as in 1834, the adulation over the Emancipation Act was covering up an appalling apprenticeship scheme in the West Indies, which was slavery by another name and needed campaigning. And one of the things that appalled me when I walked from Selma to Montgomery last year was to have to carry a banner saying, "Restore our voting rights," because Dr. Martin Luther King's hard-won campaign with the cost of lives in 1965 has been rolled back now by the Supreme Court. So there's a whole campaign to restore voting rights for black people. Complacency over human rights must always be resisted. Third thing I think is well worth saying is that we can all make a difference, even if we feel our contribution is very small. Never must we feel that it's useless to sign a petition, Give a small donation, attend a meeting, write to your MP or MSP or MEP or Assembly member. It's always worthwhile. A long since dead friend of mine who was a Member of Parliament once told us it was important for him to receive letters from constituents, even on causes that he supported, to give him more strength in his own campaigning. The late Professor Henry Price of Heriot-Watt University used to say to his students, "Never pass a petition in the street. I am alive today because your parents or grandparents petitioned the government in 1938. And I was able to be one of the Kindertransport of Jewish children." And when on 1993, that great day in Glasgow, when Nelson Mandela received the freedom of British cities, he said, what were the things that led to the overthrow of apartheid? Of course, the economic situation, the armed struggle played a key role. But without ordinary people refusing to believe the comfortable lies, without them writing and boycotting and campaigning, raising their voice, it would have taken so much longer to achieve. I've not spoken about fundraising because although I used to run Christian Aid in Scotland, I've been much more involved in campaigning really than raising funds. But I want to say finally that all of us who have had the difficult but privileged opportunity to meet with people in situations of oppression, and in the last month I was picking olives with people in Palestine, all of us know what tremendous courage these people there do to keep hope alive. And that was the slogan of that project I was involved with, Keep Hope Alive. It's not that we as campaigners need to keep our hope alive, though we certainly do, but it's above all the people who struggle to break the chains of their slavery are enabled by efforts of all of us, staff and supporters of Anti-Slavery International, to keep the flames of their hope alive.